Little by little, through patient and repeated effort, the mind will become still in the self. Bhagavad Gita is the thought to open this presentation. How to study the secret doctrine, as I mentioned, is a combination of Wadia two articles, and they have to do with the method structure of the secret doctrine. One emphasize more about the book reviews and how the book was viewed. The article you both have the articles. I mean, all of you have the articles, and they're very long. And I don't know if you got a chance to view it or to read it, but maybe afterwards you could do that. Basically, what I'm trying to do, because we only have half hour, is to say that what I got out of each article, as I mentioned at the beginning, is that one emphasize about it's almost like a review and explaining how it was done for the purpose that was done, and then tell us that it's not a text. This is not a book that you can read page by page and think that you're going to get what you want. And it's a process. This process of learning, it could take 30 years, HPV say. It could be, all depends of how much time and effort each student will put into the study and these classes. They always say that these classes, you don't get a lot out of it by just once a week, that you have to do your homework every half hour, she mentioned. But I will go into this detail later on. Since this is it had to do with this book, The Secret Doctrine, that magnificent book, you need to know a little more about the author. And now that her celebration of the White Lotus is approaching, about the author of The Secret Doctrine, HPV Blavatsky and her mission. Her life since 1875 was spent in the unremitting endeavor to draw within the Theosophical Society those who could work unselfishly to propagate an ethics and philosophy, tending to realize the brotherhood of man by showing the real unity and essential non-separateness of every being. And her books were written with the declared object of furnishing the material for intellectual and scientific process of progress, on those lines. The theory of man's origin, powers, and destiny brought forward by her, drawn from the ancient Indian sources, places us upon a higher pedestal given by either religion or science. For it gives to teach the possibility of developing the godlike powers within, and at last becoming a co-worker with nature. This is quote by William Q. Judge. As you know, he was a co-founder of the Theosophical Movement. Now, I would like to dedicate this presentation in honor of HPV on White Lotus Day celebration, May 8th, since we are now going to be celebrating, I believe, within our group. In her will, Madame Blavatsky requested that members meet on the anniversary of her passing and to read selected passages from the Bhagavad Gita and the Light of Asia. Afterwards, reading from the Voice of the Silence, HPV's last published book, also came to be included. The name White Lotus Day came from an observation by the TS co-founder Colonel Olcott that 1 year after HPV passing, white lotuses were seen to grow in an unusual profusion at Adyar, and after she passing, it's amazing. So she passed away on May 8th, 1891 in England. I'm going to show you a brief clip of about 2 minutes of HPV and her, I will say, most important moments. She was born in Ukraine on August 12, 1831. Interesting enough, the city of Dnipro, where she was born, was devastated by the recent war in Ukraine, and it's a shame. So I don't know if where she was born was damaged, but I saw picture and the whole city looked pretty devastated. She was the granddaughter princess of Helena P. Dolgorukov. And that was my video clip. I hope that you enjoy it. I thought there was very important information about the white lotus and that amazing symbol. By the way, those who live in Los Angeles around August in Echo Park, they have a beautiful pond of lotus that was given by some Tibetans. And every August you go there and they're all in full bloom. It's just a spectacle. Some observation is the title of the study of the secret doctrine. A proper study of the secret doctrine should be accomplished two things. If the student proceeds along the right lines, his own inner life will get an impetus and his own spiritual progress will be furthered. Also, his capacity to learn and to gather information and thereby to teach and serve others will be greatly strengthened. The secret doctrine, when correctly studied, produces a definite change in those who study it. This is a specific method which was employed in writing the book out of a kind of, in the student, the faculty of spiritual perception. The faculty is the penetrative quality of penetration into any subject which is being studied. Therefore, the student of the secret doctrine should always remember that the study of this book will awaken in him and will strengthen him that particular faculty which will enable him to penetrate more fully into all subjects, whether this subject be inside or outside the secret doctrine. In order that this faculty may be developed, it is not necessary for the student to read page after page of the secret doctrine, from the first page to the last. Neither is essential that subject after subject be studied with the help of the index. The point that is of the utmost importance is that the daily study be undertaken from the point of view of the development of this faculty. If the book is open at any page in either of the two volumes, the student should begin to read with concentration, trying definitely to understand that which he's reading and endeavoring to eliminate his mind in terms of the written thoughts. So it's very interesting. It's almost like you be guided. Sometimes you have a question and you concentrate, open a book. And this is a practice among a lot of theosophists, whether it's a secret doctrine or one of the HPV books. And sometimes you find the answer or a guidance, or at least you feel better. In this manner, slowly but steadily, the faculty will grow. Unless this individual work be done, the student will not be able to gain or give the greatest possible amount of benefit from and to the group, for in the class something else should be done. In the class, the faculty we have been steadily growing by the power of individual effort should be applied to grasp and understand some particular subject. The information that one might get about certain subject is not the first essential, as so many people think. The thing of fundamental concern to the student is the building of this faculty, the developing of this power of mind, which, as the ancient books put it, is capable of lighting upon a subject, of putting itself down into it, of sucking out everything that is in the faculty, must first be there in order that the subject must be thoroughly subject and thus illuminating it and rightly understood. When this is done, a particular subject might be chosen for study. This study must devote its early period to grasping principle, broad and general facts, paying no attention to the details. Study the subject as thoroughly as possible with the help of the index and other works of H.P. Blavatsky, Edison, Key to Theosophy, Modern Theosophical, Voice of the Silent, etc., and her articles in the Theosophies, Lucifer, and the Path. Then write down what is learned, and if the tendency is to go into details, check it and confine the effort to the expression of broad principle. The attempt should be made to write this resume of the study in simple, untechnical language, using words, phrases, and sentences which are familiar to the ordinary man or woman in the street. The real test of understanding a teaching comes from the student is able to express this teaching in simple, untechnical terminology, and until this is possible, he had not mastered the teaching thoroughly, which I thought was a great point. Selection of subject of study. I call it practical theosophy. What are the particular theosophical teaching that will be of greater help to the man of the world, right? We have so many problems, pandemic, world, wars, and how can we help what's going on? Is it by what we're doing right now, or can we do more? The relation of his universe through evolution is one of them. These are fundamental things that will interest and instruct and inspire. The simple propositions, the fundamental teachings, the practical thing that can be applied in daily life. These are the teachings that should be studied and set forth. The theosophical concept about the nature of God, about the lines of evolution, but above all, the question, what is theosophy? The mind of the author in the study of the secret doctrine, an attempt should be made by each student to contact the mind of the writer. How is done? If the student sits down to his study with his lower mind empty of all thoughts and entirely at rest, at peace with itself and all the world, if he approaches his study with a feeling of willingness, nay, eagerness, to grapple with a difficult subject and a determination to attempt to contact the mind of the writer of the book, then he hopes for real results. Devotion, that sets the tone. Is a group of students who are gathered together for the purpose of studying the secret doctrine, begin each meeting with a short, which is what it was shared by Keith Prisker, which we did in our classes with Juliet Compton, a short meditation on a particular aspect of wisdom that they wish to contact. If they harmoniously and in perfect unity try to lift their thoughts to a higher level, if they be intent, concentrated, and harmonious, not making cross-current by unnecessary debate and discussion, but each making his contribution as it comes to him each in his way trying to contact the mind of the author of this book. The method of study we follow, help and illumination will come, and this help and illumination will come not only from the student's mind, but also from the mind that recorded the teachings. For that mind is very much alive and will help the student of the book if they proceeded in the right manner along the occult and spiritual line. The object of the group study is twofold. First, to gather information, to learn something definite. Second, to teach to others what have been learned. If self-improvement alone be the motive that actuates the study of the secret doctrine, the knowledge acquired will not be full or profound. The book is without doubt written for the spiritual growth of the student. But this growth is possible only when the teachings are utilized for the spiritual help of others. Method of study. Now, as the method of study will have been found to be the most helpful, many people, when beginning, and this is part of the other article, the first article about method and that you emailed, many people, when beginning to study of the secret doctrine, lose themselves in innumerable detail before they even faintly grasp the meaning of the subject. The first general rule for this study group is to obtain fair view of the entire structure of the doctrine with help of the contents and a general turning over the pages of the 2 volumes. A careful perusal of the preface, introductory, proem, and summing up in the first volume, and of the preliminary notes and the conclusion in the second will give an adequate idea of the superstructure of the book, which you have done successfully so far. Reading tools. This selection are for the theosophical student and researchers who wish to probe into the nature of consciousness and matter and seek answers to the origin and aim of life itself. The universal conscious principle that it postulates is present throughout the universe. It's good to have the hard copy because if you want to make contact with the mind of the author, you cannot have a PDF that will help you with that. You need to get the hard copy because there is energy, astrally energy in those books that you can tap into it. Secret Doctrine Volume 1 and 2, Transaction, that is the book, of course, recommended for this study. Transaction of the Blavatsky Lodge, in that of the SD, and a Theosophical Glossary. Essential learning tools. Individual work for the class is what we just reviewing right now. We just did. We did the individual work for the class, the object of the class, the method of the study, selection of subject as a study, contact the mind of the author, study and interpretation, not a speculation. And then to use, both articles say that we must use only HPB books, which is the original source and the messenger of the master, to do the secret doctrine study. And as I mentioned before, we have, we mentioned other books. The Secret Doctrine Extract in the 1888 first edition mentioned once again that the Secret Doctrine provide easy access to over 100 pages for its key passages. And so far, this group has done the preface, right? The introductory, the proem, and we are working on the stanza from the Book of Shan, Volume 1, and we have to continue using the summing up.
We've already done the summing up.
Okay, you already did, great. Also included are the evolution and consciousness diagram from SD1 200 and the publisher's notes on it. When all these are studied together, they will give a sound introduction to the universal philosophy of theosophy. So it seems like we are on the right track because we have gone through all the steps that were recommended by Wadia. And kudos to this class and to Jonathan, because as far as I know, you are the only class that I know of that have followed the instruction of HPB through Wadia, and well, Wadia also have instruction from, what is the Bolton? Bolton also wrote, when she was dying, she was able to give him the instructions, and Wadia also got more information on it. And he was wonderful that he wrote all these wonderful articles to help us out. But also another thing that it seems to be interesting is that it's not about memorizing or have a photographic memory, or memorizing the quotes. It's not about that. It's about feeling, being like the light in the path. It's about understanding, not memorizing it, about using your reasoning powers. That's what Pythagoras say, right? And Socrates and Plato, they'll talk about, if you memorize something and you're just quoting all the time, you are not reasoning. And it's even in Harvard, in the Department of Law, they use the Socrates method to classes, and there were students that failed the grade because they have incredible photographic memory, but they were not able to reason, so they were not able to pass the grade. So we have to always keep that in mind. Now, in the previous evolution of consciousness, she talks about diaphragm from SD1, page 2. So this evolution of consciousness, this diagram is what she was talking about. And to get familiar with all different planes and understand it, we are that triangle. And the quaternary is an upside down triangle. And as we progress, it's going to start, join with the source. Well, since already is my half hour is up, I had to stop here.